Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Nakia. And I know it's been such a long time. Since y'all last heard my voice, since I last recorded an episode, it's been a while. It's been at least 2 or 3 years. And yeah, that's wild. That's wild. But we're not going to focus on the past. We're just going to focus on moving forward. I do want to welcome you to the Dear Diary podcast with your girl, Nakia Cariel. And the Dear Diary podcast serves as like my virtual diary. And so here, I share my life experiences in hopes to encourage, inspire, maybe even entertain a little bit those who would listen. I do want to encourage you that if you have not, please go back and listen to previous episodes. And I promise to consistently produce episodes and material for you. And so it's 2025, all things new. We're back and we're better, doing better than what we did before. And y'all, I always had the idea and the desire to co-host or to, bring others on the show. I didn't want to be the only person that you hear talking because it's like a billion plus people in the world and we all have so much wisdom and experience and just things to share and give. And today's the day. And so I want to warmly welcome. I just feel like laughing. I just want to warmly welcome my best friend and my big brother, Ken.
Hey,
Woo! If I had the
hello.
little thing hooked up, I would have just pressed it. I want to welcome him. And today we're going to talk about some really good stuff. Before we dive into what we'll be discussing today or today's entry, I just want to give Ken the space and the opportunity to introduce himself and say whatever it is that he wants to say. Go ahead, Ken.
Ken Anderson, 28, finna be 29 next Friday.
Ooh. That
Um,
man getting old.
yeah, co-host, well, the host of Must Watch Podcast. Follow me on everything, Must Watch Podcast, and Ken 901 Anderson. Finna get married soon.
Woo! To a beautiful bride.
Yeah, beautiful black queen. What else I got going? That's really it right now in my life. That's really it.
Yes. Again, thank you, Ken, for this impromptu just agreeing to join and to like host this podcast with me today. So me and Ken, we were talking earlier. We check in with each other at least once or twice a week, for the most part on good weeks. And I don't know how we got on the subject of it, but we started talking about, the importance of exposing secrets. We was talking about our childhood and we was talking about the importance of exposing secrets, and how it would affect us. And so today's episode is let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Exposing secrets while bringing forth healing, or exposing secrets to bring forth healing. So for those of y'all who know, and those of you who don't, one of my first episodes on the Dear Diary podcast, it was me sharing my story of being molested. And so from the age of like 4 or 5 until I was about, I'm going to say 11, it's kind of blurry, but I'll say up until about from the age of 5, no, from the age of 4 going up until the age of 11, I was molested. I experienced sexual encounters, sexual things between that time from family members, from people who were not in my family, and that affected me. And I do want to encourage you to go listen to that podcast. I forgave my molester because I absolutely did. And one thing about me as a kid, I was always talkative. I started talking at the age of 2 years. Mama said I started talking and I never stopped. And my mama even told me there was an opportunity. There was a moment where we were like at a park here in Memphis somewhere, and there was a couple that saw me talking, or they heard me talking. I ain't gonna say saw because they heard me before they saw me. So they heard me talking. They was like, "Who is that? Who is that? That kid talking?" And they end up telling her like, she has a very strong and powerful voice, and they just let her know like in so many words, I believe that God was going to use me powerfully. Now, I started talking when I was 2 years old, and I never stopped. But there were moments where I did go silent, or I was talking, but I wasn't telling everything. Especially when I started being molested. I remember my step uncle, who's the one of the main culprits that was touching me inappropriately. I remember him always coercing me and encouraging me, or telling me, threatening me not to, you know what I'm saying, let my mama know, let my granddaddy know. Don't let nobody know what was going on. And it was like a threat. And so those things kept happening. Now, my mama, it's interesting because my mama always told me, you know what I'm saying, don't let nobody touch you. Don't let nobody do this. Don't let nobody do that. She was like, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's me. I don't care if it's your granddaddy, your grandmama. Like, I don't care who it is. Don't let nobody do that and let me know. And so she said that, but still in those moments, I didn't do it. My voice was silenced because it's like I feared. Oh, this is good. It's like, well, it's not good, but the parallel that I'm making, or the correlation I'm
I get
making in
what you're
my
saying.
head. I feared, the repercussions of telling more than I feared, what I'm saying, what was actually happening to me. And it's like low key, I was being groomed and stuff like that. And the correlation that I just made in my head was that that's where I began people pleasing. Is in those moments of being molested and stuff like that. So, because instead of focusing on me and what was happening to me, and my hurts and my pains, I was worried about protecting my step uncle in that sense, and the other people too, where that happened. And so that's where that people pleasing came in there, and I never said nothing. And so instead of me sharing what was happening to me, I kept things a secret. But one thing about things like molestation, rape, watching pornography, things outside of like sexual traumas and stuff like that. It could be drug abuse and mental abuse, emotional abuse. That stuff's gonna end up showing back up. So at about 12, 13 years old, that's when I started coming into myself, my body and all of that, and I started getting attention from the wrong type of attention from little boys.
Yeah.
And again, what you don't deal with, whatever you try to hide, whatever you don't deal with, it's gonna come back up. It's gonna come back up at a certain point. And so that's what ended up happening to me. And I ended up, growing up, had different experiences, and maybe we'll talk about it here. I'm actually writing a book on it, and y'all be praying for me because the Lord has been wanting me to finish this book for the longest, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish it before this year's ends, for sure, for sure. But um, those those instances, those instances did something in me to where it's like my voice began to be silent, and so not only was I not sharing about, what I'm saying, me being molested, me being touched on, this and that. I also stopped sharing, or was silenced on when people hurt my feelings, when I would get bullied,
Yeah.
um when different things was going on. It's like in certain instances I would talk, but not fully. And it's crazy. And so when you don't talk about stuff like that, when you don't share it, it can have a very strong hold on you, and it'll end up showing up. And so here, I did enough talking. I want to give Ken the opportunity to share whatever he would like to share in that way.
Like I told you earlier, like our childhood mold us to the person we is today.
For
Like,
sure.
especially a man, like being touched on, it is a double standard with how everybody receives a man, like trying to with sexual assault or anything being touched on. Like when I was young, I was touched on at a young age. One of my mom's best friend's daughter. Like I would wake up and there'd be a puddle of like wet around that area,
Wow.
and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on because I'm a kid, and I want to thank God that I wasn't, going through puberty or something because I was just a little kid. But that, like, I tell people all the time in Memphis, you gotta grow up at the age of what 5, 6, you
Yeah,
like bullying and all that. Like we think checking just a good thing. Like that's just in our culture in Memphis. But at the same time, outside looking, like on the outside looking in now, it's like, dang, that was terrible. Why is we talking
literally.
about, you know what I'm saying?
Literally.
Why is we talking about this person from sun up to sundown, like, and then the next day, and then it's like the police, then the bus driver, then the teacher, then the principal, then the little kids. It's just like
Anybody can get it.
anybody can get it. So growing up with that, and then you know, porn was bad, bad. My 10th grade year is the most I ever, and I'm an adult now. Like my 10th grade year, I was just whoever had thighs and skin showing, I was just out here doing all types of stuff. So yeah, it like my first experience with, sex, I thought we was just wrestling until it got to that point. So I didn't even know. I'm thinking this girl just a regular girl playing with us. Mind you, I'm not knowing her age. Whole time she's 20.
Wow, that's crazy
And
work.
I'm looking like, wow, like, oh, it makes sense now because you don't go to high school.
Mm,
You got your own crib.
wow.
And I'm 13, 14. So I'm not paying attention like if I was 20. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So it's the wisdom and the growth and the experience of being a man now. It's just like, oh wow, I didn't realize that was bad. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people with a man, it's like, oh, you mess with an older woman. High five.
It's the crack. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a bragging rights.
But at the end of the day, like, bro, I shouldn't have been messing with that grown woman.
Yeah. And she shouldn't have been messing with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Wow.
So that was that. And I just say everybody wait. Everybody wait till you I know some people can't wait. Just wait till you grown. Wait till you grown. Wait till you're married. Matter of fact, wait till you're married. Wait till you're married.
Seriously. Seriously. For real. Like,
Yeah.
and I know, like, with our generation, um, it's just so everything's just so hypersexual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons is because the main culprit is the fact that we have so much access to technology. So before it got banned, people it was nothing for nobody to look up, you know what I'm saying, Pornhub and whatever else that's out there. It was nothing for somebody to look up, and I ain't gonna lie, I remember like growing up, we had cable when we did have cable. When we had cable, you know what I'm saying? You go down so many, channels. You go down so many channels, and about a certain part or time of the night, you already knew what was going to be up on them
Yeah.
channels. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just the fact that things like that, those type of things were just are so accessible. I know people talk about Twitter all the time. I never experienced that side of Twitter, but I heard like Twitter was good for having pornographic stuff,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, at your fingertips, and I know it was like that on Facebook as well, on TikTok, Snapchat. It's just so, I just remember like being in high school, because that's when I started my walk with God for real, or like in my own, on my own accord, is when I was in high school. I was like 16, 17 years old. I was going to Cordova. um that's when I had started my walk with God. But I remember just being on like Snapchat, and I don't even know how those people even follow me, but you can just end up finding like somebody who, what I'm saying, they sharing a story, they showing a body. It was just
Yeah.
weird. It's just so, so weird. And so that's most of the reason why people are so, um, you know, sexual. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what you constantly seeing. We as humans, we do things by our five senses. So things get there's something my daddy always like just taught us when I was very young at church, is that things get in your spirit by your five senses. So it's either going to be through what you see, taste, smell, feel, or hear. And so if somebody is always seeing pornos, people half naked, whatever the case is, that stuff comes getting your spirit, you build like an appetite for it. You know what I'm saying? And not let a person, have been, sexually assaulted or molested or whatever the case is. That just adds a whole nother level to it. Um, and yeah, it's wild. It's so wild. And I definitely agree. Like, all of us, whether if we not married, we should not be having sex. We shouldn't. And now I'm not saying that we're not gonna have those desires, but we just shouldn't, because it's just a lot. I mean, maybe we can dive into it a little bit, but it's just a lot. You know what I'm saying? I see why, and I understand at a greater level, why God tells us to wait for marriage. And I can also see why the devil tempts people with, what I'm saying, lust and perversion, and people being, what I'm saying, molested or exposed to pornography, at certain ages and stuff, especially when a kid. It's something about when you do something, or we experience stuff as a kid, that stuff will kind of like grow up with you, like for real. And I know it was like that for me. Not saying, I mean, I didn't enjoy the stuff that was happening to me, not for real. I didn't like it, but it's like consciously I did not like it, right? But your body, just because how we're wired and we're made up, is going to react, or it's going to like whatever you were experiencing. So it's just, that's a lot for a child to deal with. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Not only a child, even an adult, that's just a lot. It's weird, it's perverted, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
So something that we was talking about earlier was about, or the main thing that was one of the main things that we was talking about earlier was about exposing it. So there's something I tell people all the time, right? We are multi-part beings, right? So we are spirit, soul, and body, or we have a mind, body, spirit. We have a spirit, will, and emotions. Like, we are not just one dimension, one layered people. We're not just humans. We are humans, but we have a spirit and we have a soul, according to the word of God. And uh the thing is, things that we don't deal with will show back up. And not only that, it will show up in various ways. It can show up through sickness, it can show up through disease, it can show up through mental illness, it can show up in different ways. So we have to be careful to, we need to just speak up more. Like, for real, for real. In our black families, we need to speak up more. You know, we can look back two, three, four generations back, and Big Mama, Granny, what I'm saying, she was sexually assaulted, but she never talked about it, because it was hard. I get it. You know what I'm saying? It was hard. But instead of her talking about it, or instead of her talking about it, she held on to it. And what that does, even spiritually, when we don't talk about things, when we don't expose things, when we don't bring things to the forefront, it gives the devil legal right to afflict and attack our life. And so, for example, Big Mama, Granny, never talking about how she was sexually assaulted. She just kept it to herself. What it most likely did, it most likely made her bitter.
Yeah.
Most likely made her real mean. Most likely made her very angry. And then what she do? If she had kids, she's gonna, for the 9 times out of 10, what really happens, she gonna end up putting it out on her kids.
Yeah. And
And they don't know what's going on. They don't know why mama's so, what I'm
especially one
saying,
of the
mama and
daughters.
grandmama's so angry, so mad, so upset, so bitter, so mean. They don't know why. They just know she always been like that. Not knowing that this is what she experienced. And not only, even if they did know, they didn't know to what depth. And so it's keeping her in like a prison, a spiritual, emotional, mental prison, and as well as them. And then it's like when that stuff ain't dealt with, especially with this, a lot of stuff gets passed down beyond just sexual stuff. Poverty can get passed down. You know what I'm saying? Mental illness can get passed down. Addiction can get passed down. But thing is, since we're talking about like the sexual stuff right now, what you don't deal with, that type of stuff gets passed down. So it can open up another door for people in your family to experience being raped, experience being molested, experience wanting to be with people that's in the same sex, or all types of stuff
Looking
when
for
we
love in
don't
different
deal with it.
places.
You said what?
Looking for love in different places.
Yeah, look for love in different places. So women or men want to give up their body. You know what I'm saying? They constantly giving up their body, not understanding why. It shows back up. And so I just want to encourage us to we want to encourage us all to have these hard conversations because it's imperative. And then like I said, when you hold on to stuff, when you don't forgive, that stuff can turn into bitterness. And then that will in turn into stuff that actually show up in our physical bodies. People having heart problems, people having breathing problems,
Yeah.
stroking out, stressing out because it's a lot of stuff that's not being dealt with. That's literally being tucked away, right? And can you speak to that, please?
A lot of us are people pleasers, and we try to even in a relationship, you know,
Yeah.
we lose ourselves trying to impress that person when
Yeah.
really you don't even know if that's your person.
Mm. Mm.
Because if you know that, if this is just an example, if you know that I like to cheat, why
Yeah.
why would why would you marry me?
Mm.
I never been faithful a day in my life. Why would you
Yeah.
marry me?
Yeah.
You can't change that about me. If she walking around with booty shorts everywhere she go, all four seasons, and now you get her and you trying to tell her put some clothes on, it don't make sense.
Yeah. Don't.
It don't make sense. So I think know what you want and just love the person for who they are. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I love that too. And that's something that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like we was reading the Bible and we was reading the Ten Commandments and we was just going down, just reading it. And one thing that I noticed is that all those commandments, most of them, no, all of them, it points to the fact of us either hurting somebody else or us hurting God or hurting ourselves, really. You know what I'm saying? Like you say, thou should not steal, thou should not commit adultery, thou should not murder, thou should not lie, thou should not covet, their neighbor's wife and all that type of stuff. The one of the greatest commandments is for us to love our neighbor as ourselves. And a lot of times, situations that we, what I'm saying, face, things that we get ourselves into, it causes us not to love ourselves and it causes us not to love others and it causes us not to love God. And it's important that we create a safe space in our families, amongst friends, amongst people that we go to church with, amongst somebody that we may meet in the gym.
yeah.
A random, we got to create that safe space for people to be able to share and to talk. And like I said, the longer that we hold on to pain, the longer that we hold on to bitterness, to worry, to all those different type of things, it's like an affection or a poison that will spread. And not only will it spread to us, It can spread to our relationships. This is good to me. It will spread to our relationships. It will spread to our friendships. It will spread to, you know what I'm saying,
Family
every
members.
area of our life. And it affect the entire part of our life because we ain't dealing with it. And it's not just as it relates to sexual trauma. It can be to somebody literally hurting your feelings. Talk, you know what I'm saying? They talking crazy. They might not even fully understand what they did, you know what I'm saying, to hurt you, but they hurt you because of what they said. And instead of you having a conversation with them, being passive, because we do that a lot, we like to just take note of stuff and put it in our pocket, put it in our heart, hide it there, just like the word tells us to do. Tells us to hide the word of God in our hearts. But instead of us hiding the word of God in our hearts, we tend to hide hurt, pain, confusion, and all that stuff in our heart. And then it ends up poisoning us and poisoning the things that God wants to give to us. And it's imperative that we don't do that. I don't like recently, let me tell you, transparent moment. I know we say that a lot, but transparency, um, lately I have been finding myself having conversations with people who I've hurt,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be my mama, my sister, my parents, somebody that I like or I'm talking to, friends. I have found myself in these situations where I have hurt somebody, right? Or I've been doing stuff that they ain't like. And it was hurtful to hear how I had affected them. You know what I'm saying? It's hurtful to hear when you have been jacked up and messed up. That's a
Yeah.
hurtful thing to hear.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. To hear that you done messed up or you done fall short, you have fell short in this certain area. That's a hard pill to swallow, right? So that's one dimension of it. And then the other dimension is you having to deal with the fact that you actually hurt this person. You having to humble yourself to be able to hear that, right? And so I've been having these very imperative and important conversations with people who decided to share with me ways I've hurt them or ways I did not fully show up and support them. Or just ways I've just fallen short, even if it's them, holding me accountable. And it was hard. But you want to know the thing that I appreciate the most, kid?
What?
The things that I appreciate the most, y'all, is the fact that they decided to open their mouth and tell me.
Yeah.
I love that the most.
Yeah.
I'ma always tell you, listen, if I did something to you or somebody else did something to you, baby, open up your mouth, speak up for yourself. Let it be known. Even at the expense of me,
Yeah.
let me know. I
Yeah.
don't care,
And
how
they
many feelings get
and
hurt. How
they
my feelings
might
get
feel
hurt.
better about it too. Got it off their chest.
That's get it off your chest. I would rather you open up your mouth and share how you feel than you to carry that stuff around and then it builds up like an avalanche. It builds up like a pile.
Yeah.
And then, or it builds up, right? It's kind of like you adding whatever the stuff that we put into bombs or firecrackers, right? You just adding this stuff up in there, adding this stuff up in there. And
Gunpowder.
at one point, it's gonna get lit, and that firecracker and that bomb is gonna go off.
Yeah.
Instead of letting things like that build up, I'd rather a conversation be had, right?
Yeah.
And so I found myself in those conversations and I've had to say sorry. I've had to apologize. I've just had to hear and just reflect, right? And I appreciate that. And in the same breath, I've been having conversations with people because I had been tucking stuff in my heart for so long because a little bit of that childhood stuff is like I felt like I wasn't gonna be heard. What I was gonna say wasn't gonna be believed, a little bit. Not saying my mom didn't wasn't gonna believe me, but whatever. The different things that you can experience in your head, when something is happening to you. So it's like you may not be believed, you may not be heard for real, for real. They really may not listen to what you're saying, like they hearing you, but they not really listening. Or, you can just have a fear of like, you don't know how this relationship gonna turn out. But let me tell you, I've been having conversations and it made some people upset and all that type of stuff. But guess what? I feel relieved. because I had that conversation. I feel free because I had that conversation and of those conversations, and we can really move forth in healing. When we don't have conversations, we don't let people know what's going on. That gives space for the enemy. It gives space for bitterness and resentment. And the thing is, too, God wants us to forgive, no matter how hard it is. I know. People do some real low down, dirty, vile stuff.
Dirty.
But I'm talking about dirty. What am I saying?
Boy.
Dirty. Some dirty stuff, boy. But we gotta forgive. Like, if
Hmm.
you want to be forgiven, because we do stuff, we offend God and hurt His heart and break His heart every day.
Yeah.
Every time we sin, we nailing Jesus back on the cross. Literally, every time it's like He getting crucified over and over. So this is consistently happening. But He forgives us, so we have to be able to do that for other people. But it starts by first having a conversation. So, Ken, I have a few questions. I feel like
Okay.
we have talked about a lot of stuff. Feel
Okay.
free to add anything that you would like to add, and I'm going to ask you a few questions.
When you said a lot of stuff that we do today is when we said a lot of stuff we do today is based on our childhood. Like some people want to be alone.
Mhm.
Some people don't know how to express themselves
Yeah,
because in the black community, we tell people shut up. We tell
Mhm.
kids be quiet, shut up, don't say this, don't say that. Like now, you should let your kids be able to talk because it's
Yeah,
it's showing your parenting. Like a
yeah,
lot of I don't understand why we do that. Like